You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures, used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
In 1950, Paramount produced director Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard, a motion picture still considered as one of the best. This classic film explored the darker side of Hollywood. Montgomery Clift was originally cast in the lead role of the gigolo screenwriter, but dropped out of the picture just 2 weeks before filming was to begin. William Holden replaced Clift, and as a result was nominated for the Best Actor Academy Award. But it was Gloria Swanson's portrayal of the long-forgotten movie star Norma Desmond that truly thrilled audiences. It was Swanson's first motion picture in over 8 years. Sunset Boulevard was nominated for 11 Academy Awards and won the praise of film critics and movie fans alike.
Every time you leave me for a minute, it's like goodbye. I like to believe it means you can't live without me.
1951 proved to be a banner year for Paramount Pictures. One film in particular rose above the rest of Hollywood's offerings. A Place in the Sun, starring Elizabeth Taylor and Montgomery Clift, was Paramount's prestige picture that year, bringing home 6 Academy Awards, including Best Director. As the Korean War raged on during the early years of the decade, America's love affair with movies continued. Paramount produced many of its now classic films, including Come Back Little Sheba, which earned Shirley Booth the Best Actress Academy Award in 1952.
When I remember the way you used to be, always drinking and getting into fights.
Please be.
I'm sorry, Daddy.
But the most celebrated picture that year was a film which had audiences cheering.
One of the reasons we made the greatest show on earth is because the world needs laughter today. That kind of laughter.
Director Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth was the studio's biggest grossing film of the time and took home the Academy Award for Best Picture. The film featured a star-studded cast including James Stewart, who was seen only in clown makeup for the entire film.
Seymour, California needs a transfusion.
Huh?
What are you doing back there, sleeping?
Sleeping? Are you kidding? I'm standing back here like a horse working like a dog.
Throughout the 1950s, Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin proved to be box office gold for Paramount. They were the country's biggest nightclub act, and their films launched them to the top ranks of Hollywood stardom. First featured in 1949's My Friend Irma, Lewis and Martin went on to star in 10 major motion pictures for Paramount during the 50s. After their partnership broke up in 1956, Jerry Lewis continued to produce and star in films for Paramount, making one successful picture after another. 1953 was a very notable year for Paramount, producing such unforgettable classics as Shane, The War of the Worlds, and Stalag 17, which earned William Holden the Oscar for Best Actor. But the big surprise was a motion picture that starred a relatively unknown Belgian actress. Roman Holiday brought a young Audrey Hepburn to the attention of the movie-going public. This was the first Hollywood role for Hepburn, and she charmed audiences with her style and elegance. It's reported that co-star Gregory Peck had told the film's producers that she would certainly win the Academy Award for Best Actress, and they should prepare for it by putting Hepburn's name above title. The producers agreed, and several months later, she took home that Oscar. Audrey Hepburn made an indelible mark, not only on Hollywood, but also on American society. Women throughout the country emulated her looks and style.
Well, hello, how are you?
Well, I'm fine. How are you? And I might add, who are you?
The very next year, Audrey Hepburn again captivated audiences in Sabrina, the romantic comedy about a chauffeur's daughter and the 2 wealthy brothers that loved her. William Holden and Humphrey Bogart were cast opposite Hepburn. Sabrina was based on the popular Broadway play Sabrina Fair, whose rights Paramount bought especially for Hepburn after her phenomenal success in Roman Holiday. Sabrina made most critics' lists for the year's Best Picture and became a major hit for Paramount. By the middle of the decade, the country was hitting its stride. Leisure time played a more important role in people's daily lives than ever before. Over 30 million American households had television sets at that time. But the public's fascination with motion pictures continued, and in 1954, Paramount produced one of its most timeless films ever.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
White Christmas is as popular with movie audiences today as it was in 1954 when it was first released theatrically. It was Hollywood's biggest hit that year. Originally, Fred Astaire was cast in the film but dropped out due to illness. He was replaced by the very talented Danny Kaye.
How long you and Frank been married?
10 years.
Where'd you meet in the show?
Oh, now look, Mr. Dodd, don't you think
I'm
that's
just
just
trying to find out if you were ever an actress.
Oh, no, not me, thank you. I'm just a girl from the country. The theater and the people in it have always been a complete mystery to me.
Another unforgettable Paramount film from 1954 was The Country Girl. Portraying an alcoholic, Bing Crosby had an opportunity to reveal acting talents that audiences had never seen. It also gave his leading lady, Grace Kelly, the Academy Award for Best Actress. The following year, Grace Kelly again wowed audiences when she was cast opposite Cary Grant in Alfred Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief. Together they were magic on screen and at the box office. Filmed on location in France and Monaco, it was during the production of this film that Kelly was introduced to Prince Rainier, the man who would become her husband.
Behold his mighty hand!
When the Ten Commandments hit the silver screen in 1956, audiences lined up to see Cecil B. DeMille's remake of his own 1923 classic. With over 8,000 extras, extraordinary sets and locations, the Ten Commandments cost Paramount an astounding $13 million to make and carried an unheard-of running time of over 3.5 hours. DeMille found it necessary to build new pyramids for this film since the original ones looked too old and weathered. The cast was so huge that instead of yelling action, DeMille had to shoot off a gun to tell the actors the scene was beginning. Charlton Heston was cast as the biblical figure Moses, and DeMille's recreation of the parting of the Red Sea is still considered one of cinema's most spectacular scenes.
I love your funny face.
Funny Face won the hearts of the movie-going public with its charm and wit in 1957, and Paramount once again realized major success at the box office. This delightful tale of a bookshop salesgirl played by Audrey Hepburn and a photographer played by Fred Astaire was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. The film features some of the most memorable Ira and George Gershwin songs ever written. As the 50s drew to a close, the successes of such Paramount films as Gunfight at the OK Corral, Houseboat, and The Buccaneer continued to keep audiences lined up at the box office. Paramount had earned nearly 200 Academy Award nominations and had won over 30 Oscars in major categories during that golden decade. But the 60s were looming ahead, and that era would bring major changes for Hollywood and the country. Experience the tears, the laughter, the drama, and the spectacle of timeless motion pictures.